Good morning, everybody. We want to welcome you to today's Lightspeed webinar, where our topic is turning your service writers into revenue drivers. We're really excited today. We've got a special guest speaker today, Maggie Stevens. You'll hear more about her in just a moment. But before we jump into that, let's just take a look at the housekeeping. I know a lot of you have been to our webinars before. And just a reminder, anytime throughout the webinar, you can ask questions down in the Q&A panel. So type in your questions as you think of them. We'll be addressing some of those throughout today's webinar, but we're also going to allow time at the end of the webinar to address your questions in more detail. And as we always do, the webinar will be recorded and on demand, so you'll be able to get to that. And as I mentioned, we're just super excited today that we've got Maggie Stevens from Powersports Playbook to actually present today. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Maggie, and you can do a little introduction and help us kick it off. So welcome, Maggie.
Hi, I am ecstatic to be here. Thank you, everyone. I can see the numbers jumping. Thank you, everyone, for participating. And if you're watching the replay, excited that you're here. Like Diana was saying, definitely use the Q&A. I'm going to try and leave a little time in the presentation to answer questions live. So if you want to talk to me live, this is the easiest chance you're going to have. And we're going to have some poll questions as well. So keep an eye out on that. So a little bit about me. I am a consultant for the powersports industry. So I'm a little unique on that instance because I actually am only a fixed ops consultant. So I only deal with parts and service. That is my bread and butter. Sales, they have their own side of the house. I'm on the other side of the house with you. And so my background is I co-owned a dealership. We were 800 square feet, fully self-funded, and I turned it into the largest independent shop in our industry. Again, entirely self-funded. I am a two-time Spark Award winner for Women with Spark. I have over 20 published articles under my name and counting on top of a video series. And I just keep coming and coming and coming to help the industry. So that is what I do at Powersports Playbook. And today I am excited to help you in service make more money because again, that is the name of the game. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over 3 different topics. We're going to go over controlling the chaos with promise states that stick. We're going to go over boosting RO values with smart upsell phrases. And then we're going to talk about aligning your teams with simple note strategies. Again, I want you to ask questions. Please go ahead and engage with us and let's go ahead and get cracking. Okay, so controlling the chaos with promise dates that stick. So we all know what it's like when we're getting the phone calls of, when's my unit going to be ready? I need it by the 10th. I need this. I need that. A lot of that is preventable. And I know that that sounds crazy. And if I hadn't worked in the industry for over a decade, behind the counter, I was not one of those owners that sat up with my feet on the desk. I was actually on the floor. If I hadn't done that, I will tell you it wasn't possible, but I've done it and I've done it for years and I've done it successfully over and over again. So here's how you actually do it. So when you are having your service writer, because some of these things you can use them as the shop, manager. If you're working with a customer, you can use this. If you want your service writer to use this, whoever's interacting with the customer, have them use this. This is a feature that Lightspeed has. It's in the upper right-hand corner, and it's going to be a little section where it's a promise by date. And that little calendar is fantastic. Here's why. Because this is where you're going to have whoever is doing the intake ask the question, when do you need the unit back by? Obviously, if it's a same day service, that's a little bit irrelevant. They still need to put that date to be today. But if it's anything outside of that, I want you to train your team. I don't care, again, service writer, warranty clerk, service manager, someone helping out, the GM stepping in because someone's out sick, doesn't matter. Have everyone use that little calendar date. That calendar date is fantastic because, again, we're starting to ask the question up front. When do you need your unit by? And a lot of people don't like to ask that question. And I can understand why, because now it's like the way you approach it could be a little interesting. So some people, if you're like, well, when do you need the unit by? And you're kind of aggressive on it, the customer is going to get weird and going to be like, well, I need it before the end of the month. And the only reason why you're asking it, and the service writer, whoever's doing the check-in can say this, the reason why I want to ask this, I want to make sure there's no important dates we have to have the unit to you by. So if you are working with landscaping companies, if you're working with commercial farmers, we used to have this a lot in the dealership. We worked with a lot of cattle ranchers. And so we needed to know, when were they herding cattle? When were they fixing fences? Was there a mud event going on and they needed to go work the mud event, or they wanted to go play? They're going on vacation. All of these scenarios are going to prevent the dreaded phone call is my unit ready? So use that little feature. It's fantastic. I love it. It is going to save you so much time up front. The other thing now that we're using that feature, right? So in this magical wand scenario, we're using that feature. One thing I want you to start thinking of, this is a little bit more big picture scenario, is you can start to manage the flow of pickups and drop-offs. So if you're looking at your dashboard on the home screen, when you're looking at the ROs, you can start to see there is an option. You can right click on the top of your ROs and you can add and change your filters. There is an option to make sure that your promise dates are there as well. And you can see, and you can even sort by promise dates or pickup dates, things like that. But what I want you to do is I want you to start using that so you can start to see, oh my God, the 18th, I've got 18 units that are supposed to be picked up. We're going to get slaughtered that day. So it's little things like that that you can start to kind of get ahead on, so that way, when you are trying to coordinate pickups or you're trying to complete all these units, the back of the house that's actually doing the work isn't running around like monkeys with their heads cut off, right? So that little thing will save you a lot of time. So I know a lot of us too, most of us will have a section where done units are, and they live outside of the units that are currently being worked on. Well, that done unit section gets really crowded really quickly. And again, that's one of the things that you can kind of see when you start to use that promise date feature. You're like, oh, I've got 18 units, 20 units that within this week have a promise date of being picked up, and my pickup lot is slammed. I can't put any more in there. Let me go ahead and follow up on old customers. Maybe we need to offer a delivery. Maybe there's certain things. Maybe it's a commercial customer and they've got 2 or 3 or 5 units that they need to pick up. These are little things that you can do that these customers that sometimes slip through the cracks, and I promise you, they're the ones that complain the loudest. This is how you will go ahead and get them so that they are taken care of, and it's very minimal effort on your end. The other thing too is if you have a date, so let's pick the 18th. Say the 18th, you've got 20 different people picking up from your department, right? That is not the date to be scheduling everyone to drop off. You will die. You will want to crawl under your desk and cry. Been there, done that, right? So these are little things like that. So if you know that one date's really slammed, whether it's pickups or drop-offs, take it and you can go ahead and start to control your cash revenue for the department. And you can say, okay, well, if the 18th we're going to be slaughtered with people picking up, let's start having people drop off on the 19th. Because assuming just because they're supposed to pick up on the 18th, we all know this, they never actually pick up on the day they say they're going to. They either pick up a day earlier or they pick up a day later. So if you need to, you could go ahead and schedule, hey, we are completely booked for drop-offs because we're running out of room in the back, but we could go ahead and have you drop off on the 19th. We could have you drop off on the 20th, and you can start to stagger your work a little bit. And when you can stagger that, you can start to build a little bit of a rhythm so that one section of the dealership isn't completely slaughtered. So the pickup area where all the done units are isn't completely slaughtered, and you've got $20, $30, $40,000 of revenue that you're waiting on that you can't close out till they leave. Or you're not in diag hell where you've got 50 units that need to be diags because they all showed up at the same time. So little things like that, those are going to be ways that you could go ahead and start to manage your cash flow and not have it work for you and not against you. And I know that we should have a poll coming up soon, so just kind of keep an eye on that as well too. And if you have any questions, just put it in the chat.
Do you want to go ahead with the poll? Go number
Yeah.
1. Okay, let's go ahead and
let's
do
do
that.
it.
So I don't know if some of you guys have done a poll before, but you're going to see a question come up, and if you can just take a minute, you'll get a QR code. Hopefully you guys are all seeing that, and are you able to see it, Quentin? When maybe not as a panelist. Okay,
I can see it on my screen.
we've got people weighing in, so I know it's working. So thank you. We'll give you guys just a few more minutes, because then Maggie can kind of talk to like even the responses. It's always interesting to see what's happening out there in the real world with this type of question.
I love poll questions.
So do I. And this one is like, what's your biggest service department headache right now? I don't know that we can address every single one, but you'll see that if there's something that's happening in your world that's not listed here, you can put it in the Q&A or the chat as well.
Yeah, so I
Give
saw
people just,
inaccurate quoting and drop off checks.
yeah,
Okay.
yep. We'll give people just a few more minutes since this is probably for some of you the first time you're weighing in on a poll.
Well, and some of them too, like the one that Marissa just submitted, I can go ahead and that'll actually
Yeah,
be in this upcoming topic too. So perfect timing for
perfect.
sure.
Okay, looks like we've got most people have weighed in, so I'm going to go ahead and
Sweet.
end the poll, and then we can present the results. So I think you'll be able to see those.
All right. So it looks like, okay, so just for anyone that's just listening and not necessarily watching the screen, the question was, what's your biggest service department headache right now? Um, Option number one was when my unit is going to be ready, phone calls. Option number two, low RO ticket dollar amounts. Option number three, staff accountability, AKA the blame game. And then option number four was other. So it looks like the winner, ooh, there's a tie.
I
Look
know
at that.
it's right. It's neck and neck. I mean, there is
Neck
what
and
the
neck.
data is saying. It's exactly 43%.
When is my unit going to be ready? Phone calls and staff accountability. Okay, perfect. So
Okay.
unit going to be ready phone calls. A lot of the strategies that we just talked about in the previous slide, I promise you, use them. I have done millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars selling on the floor using those exact strategies. And so I see a couple other questions coming in too. So understaffing. I've never had a full staff ever. Ever in the decade I've done this, I have never been fully staffed. I've always been 1 to 2 people short, no matter what department I'm working in, whether I was working for someone else, whether I was working for myself, I was always understaffed. So my strategies come from how do you work with what you have, right? Sometimes I'll be honest, you don't even have the best people in your team, but this is how you work with what you have. It's little things. If you just get them to start using that promise date, again, whatever's in your queue right now, you can't go backwards in time. I don't expect you to go backwards in time. It may or may not be a waste of your time, depending on how busy your team is. But if you can start today going forward using that promise date, it's going to make your time a lot simpler. And one thing which I'm happy someone brought up with the parts availability, the one thing that you, as whether you're a service manager or the service writer, you can have that as part of the conversation with the parts manager. So there was a time in my life I was a parts manager. It was I think we were six line franchise. So it was a lot. It was a lot of moving pieces, right? Had a lot of people I had to keep happy. And the one thing that I used to do as a parts manager is I used to go ahead and I would look at the promise dates on the ROs and I would use that in my forecasting so I knew what to order. Because the other thing, right? So say you're working on a lot of Kawasaki Pro FXTs because that was what we worked on a lot of, right? For whatever reason, they'd all come in at one time. And where my inventory, I thought I was happy with it, would get slaughtered in a day or two. Well, when I would look at the RO queue and I would see the promise dates of things, and I'm like, oh my God, out of nowhere, we have 15 Pro FXTs in stock. I would go into my Kawasaki, order more oil filters, order more spark plugs, whatever it was, right? So then that way I never was necessarily out of sync with the service department. I wasn't perfect. I am human, but little things like that. Again, that promise date is going to help your parts manager so much because they can start to see the trending ahead of time. They can look at tickets ahead of time. They know what to prioritize and they even know what to rush. Because I know that everyone's done it. I've even had people do it to me. They'll come up to me, they'll be in a blind panic. They'll be like, you need to rush these parts. And it's like, okay, I'll happily rush these parts. When's the machine leaving? Immediately. It's like, really? It's not. Like, if it's leaving on Tuesday, that's fine because sometimes as the parts manager, you need to go ahead and pull different levers. Like if it's leaving on Tuesday and it's Friday and you get Monday deliveries, I can't just submit that via an order. I need to be making a phone call and staying on hold and making sure everything goes through. So little things like that will get you better results in the long run because they have the promise date. And not all parts managers know what that is, know how to use it. So if you want, share this, even if they don't watch the whole webinar, share this section of the webinar with them or, talk to them about it. But not everyone understands how to use it. So have these people be your allies, not your enemies. So that definitely, I love that question. That was fantastic. Okay. Topic number 2, boosting RO values with smarter upsell phrases. So the name of the game is to sell, right? We're all in this to be selling. We're not here to just fix a machine, do nothing, and move on, right? So one of the things I like to do, and it's a very simple question, it's deceptively simple, but one of the things I like to do is I like to have a check-in question that's the same every single time. So just like the promise date, I want something that's repeated every single time because then that means we can be consistent, right? And consistency is what gets you to scale. Say that 5 times fast. So the one question that I loved to ask is there anything else I need to know? That's it. And the reason why I said that, not do you need an oil change? Do you need new tires? How does blah, blah, blah work? It doesn't matter about any of that. You want a broad question for a reason. The reason why is we've all had this experience. We go to the local store, we have it in our head, we're going to buy this one thing. We show up, we buy the one thing, and then we forget the 3 other things that we needed to go along with it, right? That one question, is there anything else I need to know? Stops them for a second because it's kind of like a disruptive question. Everyone's like, oh, they'll stop and they'll think. I've seen it hundreds of times. The customer will stop, they will go ahead and think. And so when they do that, that's when these questions come up of, you know what? I don't know when the last time I've had my oil changed. You know what? I don't know when the last time I've had a service. Well, I heard that there was this funky noise it was making during this scenario. Oh, I forgot that I had a blinker light that was going out. Whatever the scenario is, it doesn't matter, right? That is where you start to upsell because these are all little things that clearly wasn't that important that they brought up to begin with, but you start to get wins under your belt, right? And this is where you can then roll it in to your bread and butter options. So bread and butter options are going to be, so I live in Florida, and a lot of what we do is we go ahead and we do mud ready services, first services, full services. We really don't do winterizing because again, it's Florida, so it's 1,000,000 degrees outside. But little things like that. So if someone's like, I don't remember the last time I had an oil change, that's a great opportunity. If the tech, or not the tech, the service writer they can go into the customer's history. Again, you can do this all through Lightspeed because we're all doing everything under the same name and the same phone number. We can go into Lightspeed, look at their customer history, look at the dates, see when's the last time they did an oil change, look at their mileage and go, oh, it's been a year, you're due. And then you can be like, you know what? Thanks for asking. Go ahead and add that. Boom. You just added a several $100 service to your ticket from one question. And most of the time, it's no extra work too. So here's the other part of this too. That one question, your tech's already back there anyway. They're already looking at what the RO is saying. So whether they're looking at the paper ticket, which we all lived on paper tickets anyway, regardless that there's a computer, or they're ping-ponging between both, doesn't matter, right? So they can go ahead and say, oh, unit squeaks when I'm doing blah, blah, blah. Oh, haven't had oil change. Oh, my tires are acting a little weird in blank, right? So these are things that the tech's already back there anyway. It's not extra work on them. They can go ahead if they're, I don't know, like say the customer wants to put, let's say, new rims and tires on the machine, and then you were able in the front of the house to catch the whole, is there anything else I need to know question, and they realize they need a service. The mechanic, here's how you start to stack hours, right? So the mechanic can go ahead and start draining the oil while he's taking the tires off on the lift. Again, it's little things like that that you're not putting extra weight on the mechanic who's actually doing the work, and it gets them more billables, gets you more money, and on the customer's end, you look like a winner because now they're getting a machine back regardless of what it is. It could be a boat, it could be a side-by-side, it could be a motorcycle. I've worked with all three. It doesn't matter what it is, they're getting a machine back that there's no problems. And I am telling you, anyone here can understand what it's like to have no problems. I mean, like, when's the last time you went to anything, a car dealership, a Powersports dealership, whatever, right? You had a plumber come to your house. It doesn't matter the scenario, where you felt at the end of the transaction, they took care of you. And that's the experience you're anchoring. And so when you start to anchor that, that's how you build trust. So I had someone reach out to me, I think it was about a week or two ago on social media, on LinkedIn. I was doing some poll questions because, as you can tell, we love polls. And we were talking about some polls, and one of the things was someone was asking, how do we have people stop shopping us at the service counter? And it's like, well, you have to build trust. And right now, you have to be easier. And I'm not telling anyone something they don't already know, but you've got to be easier than going to Amazon. And that's hard. That's really hard because anyone at any point in time can go on their phone, do some clacking, and have it show up at their house. So when you start to build trust, because you're giving a machine back that now has no more issues, when you make those recommendations, then they start to approve them. Because again, now you become easier than Amazon because you're catching the oil change, you're catching the squeak, you're catching the thing that's broken that they don't have time to fix, or maybe the ability to fix. You catch all of that. means more revenue for you, more approvals for you, and less reliance on the Amazons or the Revzillas of the world. Again, they have their place. We all use them, but I want people to anchor trust and a credibility with you instead of a chatbot. For sure. For sure. And I know we should have another poll. Speaking of polls, we should have another poll
We do.
coming up.
Okay, let me go ahead and we'll grab that other
Yeah.
one. Maybe I can get to those.
You're good. Ooh, I've got another question that popped up while you're doing your
Okay.
side. Okay. What's the number one check-in question? Repeating the reason over and over why to ask it, but I missed the question. It's totally fine. So the number one check-in question is there anything else I need to know? Again, that's totally fine. Don't worry about this. You can always go back and rewatch the webinar when it's over if there's sections you missed. But the reason why we ask, is there anything else I need to know? Is because it's going to be a disruptive question. So it gets the customer to stop and it gets them to think about all the things that annoy the ever living crap out of them in the back of their head that they forgot to tell you the first time. And that's when you can go ahead and either start threading it into either your bread and butter services, or you can go ahead and just write it down so that they have peace of mind. So that's going to be the question that you're going to want to ask. Is there anything else I need to know? The other thing too, you can use this anywhere in the dealership, right? I used it on the parts department. I've used it as an owner. I've used it selling bikes. I've used it even between departments. So again, I talked in the previous slide about interacting with the parts and service department. Again, you two might as well be married because one cannot live without the other, right? You will fight like cats and dogs. You will throw down, but at the end of the day, you literally cannot live without each other. So I used to ask that to everyone. I'm like, what else do I need to know? And I would be sitting there with my notebook writing down what else do I need to know. So it's a really great habit, and it's such a great question that is just so undervalued. So great question. Thank you for asking that again.
Awesome. Okay, and we do have the next poll ready, so I'll go ahead and launch that. We'll give people a chance to read it. This one is, how often is your team upselling? So we'll see what we kind of get here as well for the response rate. So you can go ahead and vote on the poll.
Yes, go ahead and work on that poll. And then if you have any questions, broad questions in regards to upselling too, please don't hesitate, put them in the chat if you want. I'll see if I can get to them.
Yeah.
You guys have been doing really great with the chat.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just drop them in there. They said they can't see the chat, but you can put questions into it. Like you can for sure can see the Q&A panel, and we'll see that both of those. So go ahead and drop them into the Q&A if you have some other ones you want to do. I love your one option here, Maggie, too, of like, I don't want to talk about it. It's a personal thing, isn't it? I mean, it's really
the truth.
tough.
We've all been there. I've been there, right? So all of these things, this is how I've built my company and my brand. All of these things are things I have done for a decade. They're not theory. They're not principles. They're not something that I got from a guru somewhere else. I have done this through literal blood, sweat, and tears. Again, a lot of people don't like to talk about this, but I've got scars on my body from working in a dealership. I've got areas where, I spilt battery acid on myself too many times, and now that skin's a little different. I've got places where I got caught in the middle of a machine. On my website, there's literally a picture of me. I am elbow deep in an engine with another mechanic because they needed help, and I had tiny hands. So we have literally all been there. So everything I am telling you is literal playbook principles that I have done, and I will never recommend something I have never done before because I need to know that you can take it and run with it. And again, someone was talking about earlier about the fact that, you're understaffed. I don't know if we're ever going to be properly staffed. And that's a scary thing to say, but we may not ever be there. So if we assume we may not ever be there, what tactics can I give you so that you can handle today, handle tomorrow, handle the next week? When someone gets sick, oh my God, that's always a nightmare, right? When someone gets sick, how do we handle all of this? If we keep the principles the same, then that's how we handle it. And we can, to the best of our ability, kind of control the chaos a little. So please.
Awesome.
Take
Okay,
this
and I'm
run with
going to
it.
show us the poll results to everybody. So I'll go ahead and share those and I thought this was interesting too, Maggie. Like your question was, how often is your team upselling? And then one of the comments from one of our attendees said that they use the word recommendations instead of upselling, which I love that, kind of just the way that you phrase it as well.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter the phrasing, right? So upselling can be back of the house phrasing. It could be front of the house phrasing. It's whatever you feel comfortable with, because if you're not authentic, Godspeed. It's going to show through everything and everyone. They're going to know that you're trying to be sleazy. And this is why we don't like car dealers, right? They're trying to do something and not be authentic. So whatever is authentic for you, run with it. I love it. Full endorsement for sure. Okay, so let's see. I feel like we're solid on these. Okay. For anyone listening, how often is your team upselling? So the question was option A is every ticket upsell questions are being asked. Second option was about half of the time upsells are being asked, which was the winner. The second one was less than a third of the time. And then 6% of you said, I don't want to talk about it. So been there, done that, right? Been there, done that. Let's
Perfect. Okay,
see.
I'll stop sharing those now, and then we can move
Thank
to your
you.
next topics too.
All righty. So, like I said, a lot of the things where you guys were saying about half of the time, so pretty much half of you said half of the time, which is kind of ironic. If you use the is there anything else I need to know, and you make that ingrained in your guys's workflow or how you guys handle things in the department, that will drastically shift. Maybe you can get from half the time to 75% of the time. And I'm sorry, a 25% increase, that means how much more money? That's a lot more money in your department that is just walking away because we're not asking one question. So definitely lean into that a little more. Okay, so our third topic is going to be how to align your team with one simple note strategy. So when you're in an RO, not the dashboard where you see all the ROs, but when you're actually in the RO, the very bottom of the screen, you're going to see two sections for notes. You're going to see a top section and you're going to see a bottom section. So what we did, and this is a practice I've done for a very long time, what we would do is we would go ahead and have a specific format for the notes, and we would only use the top section. The bottom section was if we had any warranty things that we needed to just kind of highlight, right? So obviously, if we're doing a warranty claim, you're going to need the claim number. You're going to need maybe Kawasaki codes, things like that. That's going to live in the ticket. But say you're doing a claim for Allstate and you just need the number for Jane, who's your guys's adjuster, right? You can have that very bottom section of the note screen. That's where Jane's phone number can be. So then that way you're not doing the scroll of death to try and find her phone number, or you're not adding a bunch of unnecessary lines to the RO, which fastest way to tick off a technician is to add a bunch of unnecessary lines in the RO thinking that they're jobs. They'll be hot 10 ways to Sunday. So that little section at the bottom is really great for that. And then the top section for the notes, this is where we do our formatting. So very dry topic, super bland, but it's really important. So what you're going to do is you're going to have that person's initials, because you do not want to write Melissa every single time. That's too long. Your team will not implement it. So have them write their initials and then put the date. So it would be like MS, and then it would be 8/20, and then the two little colon dots, and then their notes afterwards. And the notes afterwards, because that's the thing, right? You want the formatting to be the same. So obviously, as time goes on, every time we interact with a customer, we call and we do an update, we call and ask for a deposit, we call and ask for approval, all these little things, right? I want it to be easier for the person making the phone call to go ahead and type in the notes than it is to go ahead and write their name. So if we keep that format in the front very simple, then they will take, I've seen this happen over and over again, they will take the rest of their energy and they will write you a diatribe on what went on in that conversation. And that is where you will win every time. So if your service writer is calling for an approval, they'll put their initials, they'll put the date, and they'll say, call John and ask for approval on this RO. And then here's the little things too that really help you in the long run. If you're calling for an approval, right? So say it's a $1,000 ticket, you're calling for pre-auth, and you need to get a half down deposit because that's your guys' strategy at the shop, right? So what you're going to do is the service writer would put in the notes, call John for approval on $1,000 service bill. Spoke to John, advised that we're doing a full service, we're changing tires, and we're demudding the radiator. Again, I'm going to come with Florida ideas, right? So you write all that out real quick, very short blurbs, and then gave approval, put half deposit down, right? And you can put the dollar amount. I always encourage, if you're talking about money, put the dollar amount in the notes, because if there's ever a question, you can literally, I've done this more times than I can count. You can take your screen, turn your screen and say, well, Melissa talked to you on the 20th and she said, she told you it was going to be $1,000 bill and you put $500 down on the 20th. So little things like that where there could be miscommunications where we've all had them, you can go ahead and kind of get rid of that. But that formatting needs to stay the same every single time. So then that way, say there is someone in the back and they're doing a warranty claim for Kawasaki and the tech needs to put notes in there, the tech can use the same format and it's really easy and it's really simple and it will it will save you a lot of delays because that's the other thing too, right? So these delays, it's a little friction. We all know it. It starts to add up, and those frictions make it even more frustrating for the techs in the back. So I want to make sure everything is as smooth and simple as possible. So by the time it gets to the tech in the back and they're working on it, they actually, because we all have this, right? They actually read the ticket, whether it's the paper ticker that you printed out for them, or if they're in Lightspeed because they're reading the notes, they're actually reading the ticket versus throwing their hands up in the air, taking the ticket, walking up to you and saying, "What did they want?" And you're like, "But the ticket's in your hand." And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. What did they want?" Right? That's how you avoid that. So I know another thing too that people have asked, is that they were, ooh, we've got lots of questions coming in. That's great.
Yeah, and you know what we might do, Maggie, too? Like, people
Mm,
are just, I mean, they're loving this notes topic, really understanding exactly
oh,
how it
cool.
looks within Lightspeed.
Yeah.
So I know Quentin has been able to pull up just Lightspeed. Maybe we'll
Oh,
have
that'd be
Quentin
fantastic.
just
Yeah,
Yes.
share the
let me share
screen
that
real
here.
quick. Yep.
Yes, please.
It'll bump your slide out, Maggie, when he goes to share, and then we'll come back to you sharing it. If you can't
Send it.
share Quentin, I can jump you over there too. There we go. Okay. I said it's really brings up a great point at some of these simple things
Perfect.
and probably even just clarifying because there is different naming conventions here.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
Quentin, you can kind of dive into that a little bit more with the notes and transfer notes.
Yeah.
Sure. If you want
So,
to walk me through, Maggie, go right ahead.
okay. So, just a quick thing. So the promise date that we were talking about in the first slide, upper right-hand corner, you see where it says end date. That's going to auto-populate when you create the RO. The promise date where he's highlighting right now, that's the calendar that you're going to change. So that's the one I was telling you to live and die by, right? So there's that, just so you all can see it. So in regards to the notes, go back down, Quentin, for me. Can you go to the notes section?
Sure.
So the
Yeah.
first set of notes, that right there, if you could just go ahead and clean it real quick, and then I'll
Yep.
have you walk through the format and you can just make something up. Type in MS and then put a space 8/20.
Okay.
And then do the colon and then literally just write some goobly gob. Customer dropped off. I don't care.
Sure.
That's what we want. So that's what we're going to want every single time when people are going and using the notes. So the transfer notes below, that's what I was saying, the agent with, what was it? I think the example was like State Farm or something like that, right? We're dealing with an insurance agent and we just need their phone number. So Jessica at State Farm, and her phone number, keeping it right there for one-off little scenarios like that just makes life a little bit simpler and there's a little bit less scrolling you have to do. But that note section above where we have the MS, that is where you will live and you will die, and it is fantastic. When's there going to be a timestamp for all of this? Why wouldn't we just use the communications tab? Communications tab is not necessarily a bad thing. It's too much work. And I know that sounds really weird to say. So I've seen, do these notes show up on the text worksheets? I don't know if they show up on the tech worksheets. Quentin might have to ask that one, but let me go back to the communications tab. Why don't we just use that instead? I'll be honest, it's too much work. Your service writer or whoever's making the phone call is already in the general tab and it is less friction. So we've got to think about the phrasing in regards of less friction for getting people to actually do all this. So since they're already on the screen anyway, since they're already looking at the dollar amount, since they're already, maybe going to take a deposit or something like that, right? 90% of what they're doing, on the front end of the call is going to be on this screen. I was never able to consistently get people to use the communication tabs, no matter how much I tried, beg, threatened, whatever, right? But the notes tab, everyone in the dealership used it. So it's all about less friction for sure. And then I don't know, Quentin, do you know if the notes show up on the text worksheet if it's printed? I don't
Yeah.
think
So
so, but
no, those notes in particular are not. So these notes are going to
okay.
be RO notes. And someone did ask if these will show up on the printout. And if you take a look at the preview here, you'll see that they do show up down at the bottom left, right over here, right? So those transfer notes won't show up, but the notes will show up on the RO printout. For the tech stuff, that's actually going to be the tech notes. So what we'll print out on that tech worksheet is going to be what is in this tech notes section over here. So just for clarity.
Perfect. No, that's perfect. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, and I know some people
But
have even done it where they do a copy and paste sometimes too. They kind of redundant. They take the stuff off the notes and put it in the tech notes. At least
Sure.
to your
yeah.
point, Maggie, it's a little bit simpler. They've already typed it in and then it's the copy and pasted over there as well.
Well, and that's the other thing too, right? So it goes back to what can you enforce what can you enforce 100% of the time? So if you can do it 100% of the time, send it. I'm not going to tell you not to do it. My benchmark is, can you have them do it 100% of the time? Because if you cannot have them do it 100% of the time, it's not going to work, right? So it's too easy when there's a big RO, or maybe it's a big dollar amount, or maybe the customer's a jerk, or maybe they had just dealt with a jerk and now they're dealing with someone else, and emotions are heightened in whatever format. Maybe they just had 20 people pick up and they're kind of a little fried. It needs to work in every single one of those scenarios. So if it does, send it. Please use it. But if it doesn't, use the least amount of friction that's going to make them 100% consistent, for sure.
Yeah.
For
And
sure.
I know we've seen some comments too and questions, Stephen. I mean, we do have
Yeah.
a lot of dealers who really use the follow-up chains very consistently because some of those things that are automated within Lightspeed. I mean, I love your point, Maggie, like less friction, make it easy, which is what
Yeah.
Lightspeed is trying to do with a lot of the automated follow-up chains, even things
Yeah.
like sending a customer the pickup date, or when their
Yep.
stuff's ready. So key things there. And I think Quentin, you had something else you were going to add from the questions too.
So it looks like there's a lot of questions coming in, and they're mostly about that printout and the
Mhm.
tech notes. I think I might have to catch up on these and answer them individually just because there's so many. So just want to address that, let you know that we'll take a look at those and get those answered.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, so the other thing too, right? So I'll be honest, every dealership I've worked at, we've never had the automated workflows turned on. So some of the things that you guys are using, if it's working 100% of the time, that's fantastic. We did everything manual. There's nothing wrong with either scenario. And so the other thing too, right? So in that note section at the bottom, when we've got the note sections going on, clearly we do not want to write, this guy was a jerk. He cursed me out. I want to stab his tires, or what, like, again, keep her professional, let people know. So that's the other part of this too, right? So if the tech in the back is a little rough around the edges and he's writing into the note section, let him know this is visible for everyone, including the customer. So then that way they just know. And then you don't have to worry about, oh, what if it prints? Well, if it prints, there's nothing wrong. Why? I could spin this back on you guys and say, well, why shouldn't we show the customer how thorough we are? Why shouldn't we show the customer that I worked with the technician, I worked with the warranty clerk, I did this, I did that, I asked for the deposit? Why shouldn't we be transparent about that? Because here's the other thing, right? No one else does it. So it's one of those little things. We're coming back to building credibility, and how do we get people to trust us so that when we make a recommendation, they actually want to buy from us instead of, again, the Amazons of the world, just to pick on Amazon again. Little things like that. I look for that. Obviously, I'm a little bit unique, but I look for that when I go and I drop off. We have a 350 dually, and when I drop it off at a shop, and I'm going to Ford, I drive an hour away because of where I live. I drive an hour away to go to my dealership in Ford and drop it off. I look for those notes. I want to see, did they go ahead and check that, my backup camera is a little off? Did they actually check it? Did they do this? Did they do that? I want to see that they're thorough. So it's interesting to see sometimes what people actually are willing to say and what they're just quietly judging us all on. But that little thing of just letting everyone know, like, hey, these could be shown live to a customer. Do not put anything that you wouldn't say to their face. That's it. It's like I do one time and they'll never forget it. You don't have to worry about it again.
Great points. As I think that, Clinton, to your point, there's just a lot about like what you can or can't see on the notes and stuff too. And as we do a follow-up Q&A, we can provide some of the screenshots and just kind of a more clarity on that, almost as an FAQ. Because I mean, great questions,
Absolutely.
just so people really understand what each field within Lightspeed is doing and the functionality. So,
And that's where it gets complicated, right? And like not only that, there are like multiple versions of the RO printout. Some of them might have what you're looking for, some of them might not have them. So yeah, let me take a look at those and I'll make sure all those questions get answered by the end.
yeah, that's perfect. Thanks, Quentin. Okay,
No
well, let's let
problem.
Maggie bring her slide back up. Maggie, I'll just have to reshare again, and then we'll get back to, we're running to time, but we want to make sure if you have any other questions, you get a chance to put those in as well, because I know
Yes.
Maggie's got some kind of just next steps and kind of closure things too, but lots of great questions. We appreciate all the participation today as well. I don't know, Maggie, if
For
you had a little bit
sure.
more you wanted to cover here as well.
Yeah, so like I said, this is how we'll keep everyone on the same page. I think the FAQ that Quentin's gonna put together is gonna be fantastic. And here's the other thing too, right? Because this is a lot more nuanced than even I was expecting, which I love all the questions. Like I could probably geek out on all the questions all day long. Um, Keep it simple for you, right? Since there are different scenarios for different things, instead of trying to memorize it all, print it out. Just print it out and hand it to your people, right? Give them this part of the webinar and say, hey, watch the webinar from this time to this time, and then just have them focus on that. Whatever printout he comes up with, take that and hand it over to them. Again, it doesn't need, you already have enough on your plate. We're trying to make things simple. Instead of you being anchored as the guru, anchor the software that you're using as the guru. They're providing a document and a resource for you. So go ahead and leverage that. And you can be like, yeah, I was on this webinar. We were doing this, we were doing that. And they came up with this guide or they recommended this guide. I printed it out for you. Here you go. So again, you don't always have to always rely on yourself because most of us are stretched too thin to begin with. So I just kind of want to put that out there, make it easy on yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that.
A great point. Simplify,
Yeah.
simplify.
Simplify. Yes. I'm happy we did the polls.
Yeah.
So what I want to do for you is if you have any hidden profit in your dealership, so I'm here to help you. Every dealership has leaks. So I've always said this, the smart ones go ahead and fix them and find them fast. And so if you have any questions, if you would like more support from me, again, my job is to go in, help you find the leaks of the money that you're just leaving on the table that's literally surrounding you right now. Think of, we're all old enough probably to remember, like, Mario Kart, where they had all the little gold coins. So you've got all these little gold coins all around you all the time. My job's to help you collect more of them over and over again. So if you need any help and any support, I am at powersportsplaybook.com, and then you can go to Money Leak Report, and that's where you can go ahead and get probably my best use package, and I can go ahead and help you there. I'll help you get clear on the margins that you're slipping with. I will give you an action plan that you can immediately walk away with. Again, everything I've done on this webinar with you guys is very practical, very hands-on, no theory, no fluff. That's what you get from me when you work with me. So just kind of a little Q&A right there. If you need any more support, I'm definitely here to help you all.
Yeah, well, we really appreciate that, Maggie. I mean, it's just been great for us to partner with Maggie and just kind of, really get some of this real life scenario, kind of feet on the street. She's been there, done what you guys are doing every day, and just to give you some of those practical day-to-day tips. I mean, and really how you can do that within Lightspeed. I'm just seeing if there's any other additional questions that have come in. I don't know if I'm going to quick scan over there too, but
I was taking a second to scan. Sorry for having the Zoom face.
I know. Quentin, did you get a chance to read any more too? But I don't know if there was more.
I think we're all still obsessing about the
Yeah.
notes section, which is kind of a vibe. Like I love it.
Yeah, I think it's actually really interesting. And like it's even got me testing what's coming up here and like in all the notes and like how they work, what the logistics are of them. One thing that I think is really important that one person pointed out was they said, my notes do not show up on that RO printout at all. Why would that be? So let me share one more time here. I
Yeah,
think
that'd
this
be
will
great.
kind of show you why.
It
Perfect.
And I
takes it a
love how
second. That
someone
was
pointed
just
out the date and time and initials that, or again, I know we're going into like micro detail about like showing up and stuff like that, which is totally fine, but
Yep,
that the date, time, and initials will make your life a lot simpler.
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, so if you go to system and then preferences here, you're going to have some options with your RO printouts. So to get to that, you can go to the service folder here and RO printout options. Now, this RO printout options page is going to determine what shows up on there, right? And you can choose if you want to have it show up on a estimate, a repair order, or both. So you can see all those fields there and how you want them to show up. So
Or do not print. So the
yeah, or
dealership
do
I
not
worked at,
print.
none of our stuff printed. That does not mean, again, full caveat, that does not mean that we didn't tell everyone, I will show your notes. I will take my screen and I will turn it to the customer and I will read it verbatim. So everyone knew
Yep.
that, right? But where we had it set up at ours, we did not have it show at all. it lived in the notes. And then obviously when you close out the RO, those notes are preserved in amber forever. So again, just kind of give
Absolutely.
everyone a heads up. But we never had anything printed.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. And I appreciate you too, Quentin, jumping in and showing that stuff as well. I mean, great information today. We so appreciate, Maggie, you taking time to present, and appreciate all of
Sure.
you taking time to attend. Hopefully picked up a couple of different tips and pointers and real life things that you can go and make happen within your service department to generate some more revenue. We hope to have Maggie back for a number of different webinars. So if you have other suggestions for topics, we'd love to see those. And we do have some follow-up. As Quentin said, he's already doing some research and testing. So for everybody that's registered, we'll be sending out some follow-up as well. So thank you again, Maggie, and thanks everybody for attending. Thanks, Quentin.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
No,
And
you guys did great questions, great Q&A on the polls. Like, thank you so much for being so interactive. I loved it. Thank you guys so much for your time. I know it means a lot.
thank you, everybody. Hey, have a great day.